Alright folks, so here's another Durango update here, and went ahead and got this battery tray in here. We got our battery in here, and went ahead and fired this thing up. We turned the wheels back and forth, and we got our power steering topped off here. We got the wheels, all the power steering and all that's been bled, and I gotta line it up just a little bit better, but I did a little bit more tweaking on it. I got the alignment almost as close as I can get it. I mean, we're going to take it to a professional shop and get it lined up, but I just want to kind of set it close enough where, you know, it's not going to drive crazy. I mean, we only got to go 8 miles, 8 to 10 at, you know, the most, so it's not going to hurt it. But anyway, we got that done, and we getting on the ball on this thing. Our wheels came in. I don't think I've showed them that. No, I have not. So here's our wheels here, like I said and mentioned. It's the same wheels that were on it before. So it's got the ram horn in their center here, and then it's the same, you know, 15 by 8 wheels is what these are. I don't know, they might be 10s. They almost look like 10s. I'm gonna say 10s. But anyway, yeah, they're 10s. Yep. But these are 15 by 10 inch wheels, 6 lugs, and we got that one here. We got the other one over here. We're missing one center out of 4 of them, so we're missing just that one. So I'll probably try and locate that. I can find that real easy. We got our tires are in. I already showed that in the previous video if you look back, and we got the other 2 wheels. They're in the other location. But now I'm hoping maybe this coming Friday, of course I've been saying that for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, but you know, I keep running into stuff on it. And you know, I just got to do the best I can do. That's all I can do right now. Money's, like I said, very tight. But I'm hoping I can get these wheels and tires, mount it back on, and get that part done, and work on this radiator and get all that done and fill it up with antifreeze and just check our temperature and make sure it's running okay, and you know, all that good stuff, good oil pressure, and check out that rotor and our distributor there. But anyway, that's kind of where we're at here. I got the drums and the shoes. I think I mentioned that before. They're on the way. I got new lug nuts, and if you're asking what size they are, they're 1/2 inch 20 is what they are, and they're supposed to have a 60-degree angle on them. Let's see, what did I do with them things? I have the originals, and I had to replace those kind of for 2 reasons, really. Well, actually, technically 3. First reason is they were stolen when the wheels were stolen, so they stole them as well. And the other reason too is the front and back had they were all the same size as far as the thread and all. But one was a 21 millimeter on the front is what we had on our front there. So that took a 21 millimeter socket, and on the back it took a 19 or either a 3/4. But I got all them matching all the way around because I wanted all that to match. That way it'll eliminate that issue. And the last reason is because some of the lug nuts before they were stolen, some of the threads were a little messed up there, so I just, you know, I just said the heck with it. But anyway, that's where we're at. But yeah, talk about the angle on your lug nuts here. Now this, I'm giving credit to Jonathan W, because he's a good fella. I like watching his videos, and I forgot what video this was on, but I do remember it. But he was talking about lug nuts here. Let's get in the light here so you can actually see it. And I apologize if the video is a little bit shaky there, hopefully not, but I'm trying to get in the light here. But he's talking about, this is, I guess, not, you would call maybe the taper kind of. So from this point down to this point, that angle right there, you got to really watch out for. But on this Durango here, I'm on focus now, it's supposed to be a 60-degree angle is what that is. I'm not sure what the correct name of that, but it's basically like a taper. But you want to watch out for that, because just because they're a 1/2 inch 20, you got to make sure you got that correct angle. So anyway, that's what they are. And I got them on the way. Got 24 of them, because this obviously is a 24 stud vehicle here, because it's a 6 lug, so 6 and 6 is 24. So that's what we got here. But anyway, So I'm still waiting on the brake drums and the rear shoes for it, and like I mentioned before on their C10, but we have learned about the brake shoes on that, and it's really not really a win-win. Whether you got riveted ones or bonded, it really doesn't matter. If you got riveted ones, you just need to keep a better eye on them. You know, keep an eye out for the wear pattern. Don't do like me, like I mentioned before, and let them get into the drums and ruin them. And the bonded, you know, tends to come apart over time. So it's not really a win-win at all on that. But either way, they're brakes. Just keep an eye on them. You need to check the wear on them. I'm going to be a little bit better about that because the brake shoes that were on this truck were on there since 2017. Well, technically either 2016 or 2017. But they've been on there since then. Still haven't did the back yet. I got to do the back yet. But I'm hoping I don't have to buy drums for the back as well, because I might destroy them as well and glue them all to pieces. Hopefully not. But anyway, to get back to our Durango here, they're on the way. And on the back is 11-inch drums. They're 2.5. I mean, not 2.5. They're 11-inch drums and 2.25 inches wide. That's your shoe width. And always make sure you got the short shoe facing to the front of the vehicle that way, and the long shoe facing to the back. One is your primary shoe, and one is your secondary. And as you step on the pedal, they come out like that. And your adjustment screw at the bottom there actually pushes them out that way. You can go in and out that way, and then when you actually step on the pedal, they come out more. That's how they work on both sides there. But if I wasn't holding the camera there, they just spread out like that. But anyway, they're on the way, and our new wheel lugs came in, so I got to pick them up, and hopefully be a little bit closer. I still got to do the axle bearings and axle seals. I did order the tool for that, so we're going to get into that too. We're going to change them out, because before I put new shoes and drums on the back, I want to change those out and put fresh gear oil in it. It's not really that expensive to do. I think the gaskets for the rear end covers, it's kind of crazy how much they are now. They're like probably 15-20 bucks now just for a differential cover gasket. It's ridiculous, it really is. But you know, it is what it is. But I'm going to change all that out because I don't want to take a chance and throw new shoes and drums on it. And you know, here we are a few months down the road, and then the wheel seals start to leak and all that gear oil gets on the shoes, and y'all pretty much know what happens from there. It just ruins them. So we're going to do all that at one time, and we will be good. But I'm going to throw this key in this thing here, and like I said, we got to check the engine light on, the airbag light. I got to look into that a little bit. I'm pretty sure it's just the sensors. One of them's not even plugged up, as a matter of fact, so that's probably what's tripping it. And then the other one might be bad. But anyway, I went over this thing pretty good. Let's take our key out because it's annoying. But I went over it really good. I checked all our windows. And of course I checked it after the accident. All our windows go up and down nice. Our mirrors work. Our locks work. All our headlights work. Our turn signals. We got lights in here. Our horn works. There we go. And our heat should work. Blows just fine. So hopefully when we fill this thing up and ain't freeze, it ain't going to leak or be stopped up. I hope the heck not. I really don't want to pull the dash back out again. But went over it really, really good. So everything seems like it's working pretty good. I got to check, and once I put a radiator and all back in it, we'll make sure we got a good temperature and got a good oil pressure, and we will be good. We'll fire it up here, let you hear it. Can't run it too long, but I'll let it run a few seconds here. So here we go. Fire this bad old 360 up. But sound like got a vacuum leak. It's got a light little tap back at that distributor. I have a little misfire, but let's shut her off here because I don't like running it too long. We got good power steering. Yeah, I just don't like running it too long like that. But anyway, once we get our radiator and all that good stuff back on it, all fired up, and I'll let it run for real. But still sounds like that rotor is almost like the clearance ain't right or something, because it did that before the accident. Like it's almost rubbing the inside of that cap there, because you can hear it as it's spinning. It's going so I'm gonna have to check into that. But still kind of hearing the lifters a little bit when you first start it. It's like you can hear them a little tap there, and then it goes away. But seems like you got good oil pressure and everything, so like to take and pull this motor and raise it up a little bit and change them two middle freeze plugs behind their motor mounts, and I'd like to drop the pan on it as well and throw an oil pump on it, because like I said, I'm trying to squeeze out as much life as I can out of this thing, because this thing has got to last. Still going to pull the intake off and eventually pull the heads off as well, because I got to address quite a few issues. I got to address the exhaust manifolds, got to get them bolts out, which is going to be a job, trying to get those out, and then plus I want to put intake gaskets on it and freshen it up. But that's where we're at, and I got all our suspension, everything's good on that. If you haven't watched, everything's bolted up and everything's been greased. Got our steering box in, like I said, our power steering lines are back in, and looks like everything's pretty good. We got everything topped off, got plenty of power steering fluid, so that all looks good there. Seems like I don't see any leaks nowhere. Everything looks nice and dry. I don't see anything under here. I don't see anything at all. But looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. And like I said, once we get our radiator and everything in it, we're going to check over it real good. We'll take it and before we take it to the alignment shop, I'll take it up down the road a couple times, make sure our transmission shift's fine and all that good stuff, and it'll be off straight to the alignment shop, and then we'll get that inspection sticker, which I can't stand those inspection stickers. They're really a pain in the ass. Can't stand them. But I tell you one thing, I've really earned that sticker, just like I had to earn it for this truck too. I had to bust my ass to get it when this truck used to have a state inspection on it, but thank God it don't no more. But, and of course I wouldn't drive if it wasn't safe anyway. That's why I did our brakes on our truck here, because it wasn't safe, and that's not something to play with. Your brakes, your suspension is not something to toy around with, and really your lights too, because if you're driving at night, people need to see you. That's not something to play with. But anyway, so we go get that thing done and get all that good stuff done, and we'll be good to go. I got to mount our bumper up. I got the bolts in it. I got to tighten all them up, and we're pretty much just about wrapped up. Now it's just waiting on the last few parts, and once we get on the road, like I said before, it's still some more things I'm going to do. I want to do this brake booster and replace it and see how that works, and still going to do our axle bearings and our seals. We'll probably get that done before we get this thing back on the road, because the new deadline, like I mentioned before, wasn't quite ready by Halloween like I wanted, unfortunately. But anyway, it would have been if it wasn't for the wheel and the tire issue. We would have had it for sure. But that's alright, it'll work out. I did have the wheels, they did come in and all. I'm not sure if I showed them yet or not. I don't think I did, but they came in. So we got those two wheels right there. They're the same wheels. It was what was on it before. So we got those, then I got the other two at a different location. So I'm gonna try and get all that mounted up maybe this coming Friday. Maybe. We will see. Because it's almost going to be about $100 to get the tires and all mounted, which I have. If you haven't seen that before, I got the 235 mud tires I got 4 brand new tires for it. Got the, I believe they're called the Fulcrum tires, however you say it. But yeah, it's awful anymore. But yeah, they quoted me about $100 to mount them and balance them, and it's just, you know, it's outrageous. Really a rip-off. But that's why I despise taking things to shops. I can't stand it because you get screwed and they rip you off. They really do. And they think, you know, they see something like this Durango here, and or something like that Biscayne, or they do something like the C10 here, and they look at that thing and be like, good Lord, that thing's a beater. I know I can get some pile of work done on that thing. And a lot of times they don't even want to work on it, you know, or they don't know really what in the world they're doing and how to take something correctly apart. Been there, done that, and I've learned from that. Just like I did on the Etzel with the brake drums. Don't beat the studs out to separate the drum from the hub, because you completely ruin them. Because the correct way to do it, as long as they're not terrible, is you can leave the hub and everything all assembled all as one unit, and you can take it up to O'Reilly's there and get the drum turned. And there you go. You just pull it off as all as one unit. Leave the bearing races in it. That's the secret to it. Leave your bearing races in it, unless they're like screwed up or something. Then I would replace them and make sure to check them. They don't spin. I've had that happen before where they've spun and ruined the hub. Then it is truly trash. That's what happened on this truck here. Is it ruined the driver's side and the Etzel as well. It wore a groove into it because it was spinning and ruined it. Kind of the same concept if you spit a rod bearing or a main bearing. But the best thing about that, though, is if you spin a rod bearing, yes, it's still not good. You know, all them metal shaves and all that are going through the motor and everything else. But one advantage to it is, as long as it doesn't screw up as far as anything on the, you know, the cylinder bore, anything on the cylinder walls, or it doesn't mess up the crankshaft, main journals and all that inside the block, as long as it doesn't screw that up and you don't spin no main bearings, it's actually still usable. Now the crankshaft is obviously trash, pretty much, and that one connecting rod is obviously trash too because it ruins that. But I think I would almost take a chance at it if it's just a spun rod bearing, because it doesn't really ruin like the block alignment and all that, and doesn't really ruin, you know, nothing as far as inside the block. It ruins the crank, but you can replace the crank and you can replace a rod. I mean, if it does that, you're gonna have to take it to a machine shop anyway, but it's still not good because all them metal shavings are, you know, going through all the oil and everything else. But I almost would take a chance at it. But yep, same concept as that, but learn from it and all that. But to get back like what I was saying and all, but yep, I don't like to take things to shops. I really despise it, and if it wasn't for the Virginia State inspection, I would never go to the shop ever, because I don't like getting ripped off. And it's crazy anymore, because one person I talked to, they said they had I think he said it was an 83 Ford F-150 now, and it was a 4-speed, and he took to his shop and had to put a clutch kit and all that stuff in it. And you know, I just despise taking it to the shop, because you don't know what in the world they doing. They could have just threw another clutch in it, and you know, said they changed everything, the clutch and the pressure plate and the pilot bearing and all that, the clutch fork. You know, it's so much stuff that goes into it. You cannot trust nobody now these days. Or, you know, they don't really care, and they throw a clutch kit in it, you know, and put the pressure plate and the clutch disc and all that on it. But the flywheel is, you know, screwed up because it's either got hot spots on it, or it's got cracks, or it's just, you know, it needs to be turned. But anyway, they charged him $1,000 to put a clutch kit in an 83 F-150. And I told him, like, dude, you're crazy. You can buy that clutch kit and all that for a little bit of nothing. And you need to be the one to do it, That way you get out there and you learn, and you know it's done right. Because there's so many details you need to pay attention to. You need to check your flywheel over good. It might need turn. It might be trashed. You know, it just depends on what happened. You know, it might have hot spots on it. It might be beyond turning because it's, you know, already obviously been turned. It's just so much details. And you got the pilot bearing. It needs to be changed out. You need to check, you know, your input shaft. Make sure that's not grooved up where it rides inside the pilot bearing. It's just so much details. I could not believe that. I'm like, buddy, you need to do it yourself. And, you know, I think I helped him a little bit. But he's like, I would have loved to do it myself. And, you know, you got to teach people. You really do. To save money, don't go to these shops and get ripped off and get screwed. Now, I'm not saying all shops are like that. But, you know, nowadays, you just cannot trust people. You can't. Really can't. Because if I would have took this thing to a shop and all that, they probably would have charged like probably $10,000, just say, to do all the same amount of work that I did to it. And, you know, the only difference is it would have been, they probably would have painted the whole thing and put new fenders and all that, so it would have had Chinese fenders and all on it. You know, I'm sure it would have looked nice, but, you know, they wouldn't have went into all the details like I do. You know. And painting and body is the least of my concern on this. I can make anything run or drive when it comes down to it. You know, look at our Biscayne here. I can make anything run or drive. Doesn't run yet, but it will. But when it comes to body work, you know, it's just, that is one of my little weaknesses there. But a lot of that boils down to, you know, you just got to have the tools. You need to have you a good, real, I say real air compressor now. You need to have a real air compressor, and you need to have you a real, you know, power source. And, you know, that's the best I can do. Is I got a generator and don't quite have an air compressor yet, and, you know, that's the best I can do right now. But anyway, that's why it's kind of a little bit of my weaknesses is I don't have the correct tools. But anyway, that's where we're at on the Durango here. A little bit longer than I would have thought, but I'm just glad it's getting done. Thank God. Because I want to get this thing wrapped up. And I still can't believe they want $100 just to mount 4 tires and balance them. And 4 new valve stems. And that's something, too. I've been in the past, too, and I'll tell them, you know, I want all new valve stems, and I don't care if it's $5. I don't care. Put them in there. Because I'm not taking a chance and going down the road and getting a flat tire and you got to pull the whole tire and rebalance it and everything else. Because of a little valve stem that's, you know, either a little bit dry rotted or it's coming apart or, you know, whatever. And I've had that happen before, tell them to replace it and they don't. Or they halfway do it and replace, you know, 2 out of 3 of them, you know, and, well, not 2 out of 3, 2 out of 4 of them. Or they just replace one and just say, oh, this looks good. No, it's like, look, I don't care. I'm paying good money for it when it's done right. Trust me, I'm picky about that stuff because I ain't playing around with that. And, you know, when you're out there and you're busting your ass and all that, you know, I want things done right. I do. But we earned our sticker on this, and I don't see no reason at all why it won't pass. I really don't. I mean, we went over this thing with a fine-tooth comb. Did way more than what we had to. Way more. But it's pretty much just about done. Like I said, we got a few more things I want to do to it. And got to get our radiator and all back in it. Got to get our bumper and tighten all that up and get it lined up. Pull that end up a little bit. You know, we'll get it as best as we can. And got to put our cotter pins, and we got our 2 pieces that go back on there. But went over this thing with a very fine tooth comb, and it's gonna be nice. I can't wait. Man, it'll be so much better. I just hope it lasts, and we're gonna keep it on the road as long as we possibly can. Here's our old water pump, our old freeze plugs, which really they weren't rotted out. That's not rot. That's actually just rust and scale. See, look at that. They weren't really rotted through, but I think I might have only had like 2 of them leaking. But, you know, just little details like that too. And if I would have had running water down here, I would have took a water hose on a nice warm day, and I would have flushed the inside of the block out and washed all the trash out of it. And, you know, which it really wasn't that bad. But you just want to make sure you don't want to use a lot of water pressure when you do that. Just turn it out really, really low. You don't want to put a lot of water pressure on it. Just turn it where it's running, but it's not a lot of pressure behind it. If you ever do that, if you're flushing the coolant system out or heater core or anything like that, especially heater cores or a radiator, you do not want a pile of water pressure on it, because you'll end up, you know, blowing it out. You don't want to do that. But if you flush the block out, you know, it's not so much a little bit of the water pressure, but a lot of it too is just you want it nice and low, so it gets time to get all behind the cylinders the way it's cast in the block, and it'll get behind them and flush all that out. So make sure your water pressure's, you know, you don't want it so far down and it ain't gonna do nothing. You just I know what you're doing. Just details like that, you know, I would have did that too before I put the freeze plugs in it, but it better pass, because I don't feel like playing around with it no more. I don't know why I wouldn't. It's got new rotors, it's got calipers, brake pads, got our drums and our shoes on the way. It's got new hardware on the back, which I got to pull all that back off because I replaced all the hardware for the brake shoes, but didn't replace the shoes at the time. I was going to let them ride, but now since the issue with our C10 happened, I ain't doing it no more. I ain't going to mess with it, because the drums ain't that expensive, but you know, you don't, why sit there and keep replacing stuff like that, and don't play around with the brakes. It's not something worth playing around with. But ball joints, we got shocks, we're going to do our axle bearings and our seals, and I have new wheel bearings all the way around, and just everything like that, you know, helps with the alignment too, because it's, you know, if you got worn out wheel bearings, but all the ball joints and the chive rods are, you know, all that's in spec, the wheel's still going to have play in it, and that's still going to throw off the alignment. I mean, when they line this stuff up, it goes down into, you know, so many degrees. It's, you know, the cambers, I believe they call it the camber, goes in and out, the wheel goes in and out like that, and, you know, the toe goes in and out that way, and the casters, the wheel inside that wheel well there. Obviously, they don't do the back because that's self-lined up, that's self-aligning, but on the front there, they can shim it out this way or this way. They got shims back there to do that. But you know, really, when it all boils down to it, when they say alignment, they make it look way more complicated than it really is. When it really boils down to it, the way I look at it, all they're really doing is they're pulling it up on a ramp that is level, that's supposed to be truly level, and they roll the vehicle back and forth to help kind of settle the suspension. And all it boils down to is they just squaring that wheel up to make sure it is perfectly square always. Make sure it's square. You know, it's not like that. It's, you know, perfectly square. And then making sure it's square that way too. It's just perfectly in line. It's like drawing an X on it, I guess you would say. And they're just making sure it's perfectly lined up, basically as close as they can get it. They just make sure it's, you know, completely straight and parallel, you know, whatever, both directions, this way, you know, out, in, and in and out that way on the toe. And then the caster is the same way.